Hi, welcome to Planetary Calendars, Astro Portraits. I'm Ralph Demetrius, one of the astrologers. The portrait today is part of our musician series, and it is the young artist Ariana Grande, which is a person who's quite distinctive because of her incredible following on Instagram, which is really quite interesting, very different from the previous generations of musicians. Ariana was born on June 26, 1993 at 9:16 p.m. in Boca Raton, Florida. So she was born with the sun at 5 degrees Cancer, the moon at 6 degrees Libra, and the rising at 20 degrees Capricorn. Now, I'm sure I've heard her music. I don't recall ever hearing it. My wife has told me that I have heard it, but she's tremendously popular, but within the pop venue, I guess. What's really fascinating about this chart is the markers about someone who would become famous. The first thing we always look for is, where's Uranus? Uranus is the planet of sizzle, right? Excitement. She has it at 20 degrees Capricorn, conjunct the rising in the same degree. This girl was born probably during a lightning storm or something like that. I mean, just electrical. It's conjunct at the same degree with Neptune. Neptune is a very powerful success planet because it has to do with imagination. This person, Ariana, excites people but also stirs their imagination, and it's in Capricorn, so she comes across as a serious talent. She doesn't come across as a lightweight. She comes across as serious. It gives her a certain natural reserve and maturity. Now, the other marker you find a lot of times, you find like with, for instance, with Whitney Houston, was the sun over in the Western Hemisphere in the 7th house or the 6th house. In this case, it's in the 7th house of partnerships. So Ariana is very good at making partners, at establishing partnerships and working with people to establish good partnerships. And for someone to be successful in music these days, where music is oftentimes written by multiple people and the production is very, very complicated in these big stage shows, you have to work well with others. You have to play well with others. And she has the sun in Cancer, America's sign, July 4th, Cancer, in the 7th house. Now, interestingly, it's below the horizon. Even though it's the 7th house, the ascendant-descendant line is 20 degrees. So at 5 degrees, it's below the horizon. It's already set. It tends to make the moon very powerful. Whenever the sun is below the horizon, the moon becomes more powerful. If the moon is above the horizon at night, after the sun goes down, it's even more powerful. In her case, it's very close to Jupiter in the 10th house of career. It's at 6 degrees Libra. So it's almost an exact square to that sun. Very, very close to that. So this is a person who will, address challenges. When you have a person who has a square between their sun and the moon, they have challenges in their life, but they address it. They work on it. They focus on it. And because the moon is in Libra, the sign of partnership, the sun is in the 7th house, the house of partnership. She oftentimes accomplishes things by working with others. She seeks partners out to help her with things. Cancerians are great for moving things together. If you look at many of our most successful Americans, there's a lot of Cancerians. A lot of Cancerians out there. Very successful people. We always think of Leo as being the leader, but in truth, Cancer shows up as a leader just as much as Leo, I believe. So she has the moon there in the 10th house of career, conjunct Jupiter. Now, the Jupiter and the moon have a very strong relationship anyway. Okay? Very strong relationship. So this makes all of her emotional projection more obvious, and it makes her projection as a woman, Venus, right? Venus's sign, Libra, more obvious. It makes her more obvious as a beautiful woman. Now, because it's in Libra, we have to go back and we have to say, well, what's Venus doing, right? Because that's the ruler of Libra, so that basically defers back, that moon and Jupiter are deferring back to Venus. Where's Venus? In the 5th house of creativity in Taurus. its rulership position. And the Venus is exactly trine from the 5th house of creativity and the sign of music, Taurus, to the rising, the Uranus, and the Neptune. So her ability to be creative in music is projected directly at her rising, and it's given all that sizzle and imagination and dreaminess that Uranus and Neptune can contribute. Right? This was a person who was just really stood out from when she was young. Okay, which is interesting because Capricorn rising, oftentimes those people have delayed, they're delayed in their development because it's Capricorn rising. Sometimes they oftentimes will have health challenges earlier on. It's interesting. Her health challenges is shown by Chiron in the 8th house, and the 8th house is about reproduction, and so I suspect that when she has health challenges, it's probably hormonal, and it may be reproductive in nature. I don't really know very much about her, and of course that part of her life is going to be private, because the 8th house is oftentimes, a private part of her lives. But that's where she would tend to have issues. The Uranus and the Neptune at the rising, her birth might have been unusual in some ways, or it was difficult in some ways, but Capricorn also has durability. And her 6th house, right? Her 6th house is her basic constitution, the rising's really the health, but the 6th house is really the basic, kind of how your system functions is in Gemini, right? So we have to go back to Mercury, and Mercury is in the 7th house in Cancer with the Sun. It's just above the horizon. So she definitely had a mother who was very cognizant of her health. In fact, that Jupiter-Moon conjunction up high really speaks to a mother who was very much there for her and very much acted like her partner in the 10th house. Her part of fortune is there too, her connection to the world, her financial world, her partner in her career. She was very much there. And we've seen this with a number of women singers. The mothers were very prominent, highly elevated moons in the chart, very powerfully placed in the 10th house, mothers who were ambitious for their daughters. Interesting, right? But then you got the Mercury in the 7th house, Venus in the 5th house, great creativity that was probably much encouraged. Her talent as a singer with music probably came out very young. I think, being in the 5th house like that. What's interesting is that her midheaven is in the 11th house. It's not in the 10th house. Part of fortune's in the 10th house. Jupiter and the Moon are in the 10th house. Very strong career. She's got Mars in the 9th house. It's very possible that she's learned a great deal about natural health. 9th house has a lot to do with professional skills. It relates to physicians. Mars in Virgo tends to be very particular about their health, very particular about what they eat. Mars in Virgo was very perfectionistic. You find it in a lot of actors. Their willingness to work endlessly and getting the details right. But the midheaven is in the 6th house, 11th house. 6 degrees Scorpio. So very driven about that part of her career, but a lot of it was about being part of a community, and it was about earning the money. Part of this whole plan for her was, if I'm really successful, I'll have money, I'll have power in my community. And that really mattered to her, and especially emphasized because she has Pluto there as well. So there's an underlying drive. The interesting point is she has Ceres, the asteroid in the 4th house, showing definitely a mother who was a natural shepherd. She didn't suppress her daughter; she shepherded her daughter. Shepherd her daughter. I'm sure there's a word in there some ways, right? So you really see this very strong mother, a very actualized daughter, a lot of natural talent, a lot of natural sizzle. North node in the 12th house in Sagittarius, the ability to expand in the private spaces of the community, of the community of the studio. The 12th house is all about the studio. Fascinating chart. Like I said, this is a person who's really good at making partnerships, has a lot of natural talent, a lot of natural sizzle, and a mother or women in her life who really supported her expansion and her growth. Great chart. Great chart. All the great markers that we wanted to point out and that we've seen so often in very, very famous people. So that's the portrait of Ariana Grande, part of our music series. Remember, come and see us at Planetary Calendar Astrology, where we on YouTube, where we post our portrait and our forecast weekly. And of course, at planetarycalendar.com, you can find your planetary calendar that we do for each year in its 5 or 6 different formats. And so until next time, be well.